Good evening, and welcome to a spooky episode of Codo Cinema, the podcast show where I talk about movies. I bid you welcome as your host, the man, the myth, the horror, the legend, Mark Codo, aka Codo Man. So let's get right to it. We are back for another year of Codo Cinema Horror Month. So you're probably wondering, what movie am I going to talk about? Well, I'm going to talk about different films in a top 10 list. So we are starting off Codo Cinema Horror Month with a top 10 list. What top 10 list I'm going to talk about? Well, how about the top 10 darkest and scariest movie moments in Marvel movies? So yeah, if you're probably wondering, the last couple times I did two different top 10 episodes, top 10 darkest and scariest movie moments. Why not do a top 10 list for Marvel movies? Even though Marvel movies, from some people may think and say, "Oh, Marvel's too childish." Not really. Not really. Not every Marvel movie is childish. I mean, come on. There's definitely a few scenes out there where they do have some darkest and scariest moments in there. So that's why I am doing this episode and having a list of the top 10 darkest and scariest moments in Marvel movies. So, to kick off the list, number 10, Carnage breaks out of prison. Venom Let There Be Carnage. While Venom Let There Be Carnage is far from an improvement since its 2018 predecessor, the very first Venom film starring Tom Hardy, it still had his major flaws on the story, editing, and pace. However, the film still has its fair share of scary scenes. One scene, in my opinion, is Cletus Cassidy turning into Carnage after an attempted execution that he was going to be put to death. Cletus Cassidy gets injected with the venom. Technically, Cletus bit into Eddie Brock's hand before the execution, tasted the blood. So basically, it's the blood that goes in. Basically, Eddie and Venom's blood going inside Cletus Cassidy's blood that literally turns Cletus Cassidy into Carnage. Now, that scene alone, it's like you're watching a straight up horror film. Something that actually came out of a horror film, where Carnage emerges viciously out of the execution room, showing off his powers as the venomous serial killer he is, going after the warden. Despite the jump cuts, Carnage whips out the security with large spears like tentacles, tosses security guards around in their prison cells like rag dolls, and even French kiss one of them. And on top of that, Carnage kills the warden in a whirlwind-like fashion, leaving the prison with a war. Even though Sony held back on an R rating for this Carnage-filled fest, the prison breakout was definitely a prison fright riot. Number 9. Wanda kills the Illuminati. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. What do you get when you add the Evil Dead and Spider-Man director Sam Raimi into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Some crazy over-the-top violence and horror. There are several scenes in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness that feature a lot of dark and scary moments in the second installment of Doctor Strange. Sure, yeah, the film does have its fair share of problems, particularly in the story and writing. Even the production itself had its fair share of trouble. Hence the title of the film, Multiverse of Madness. So I guess the production itself was madness then. So anyway, several scenes included Zombie Strange, Scarlet Witch attacking the temple, or a possessed Wanda Maximoff changing Doctor Strange, America Chavez, and Christine Palmer. However, in my opinion, it is the possessed Wanda wiping out the members of the Illuminati one by one. We see is the members of the Illuminati, Reed Richards, Captain Carter, Captain Marvel, and Black Bolt stopping Wanda from getting to American Chavez. Ri- Reed Richards actually turns from the smartest man alive to the dumbest man alive by telling Wanda that Black Bolt can destroy you with one whisper from his mouth. Although before that, Wanda goes into full-on savagery by asking Reed Richards if his wife is if his well, to paraphrase, if his wife is still alive, and then Reed tells Wanda yes. But just the fact that Wanda tells tells Reed Richards is good. Then there'll be someone to take care of their children. Like she's asking Reed Richards about his wife and children. That's oof. That was cold. That's just cold. But anyway, like I said, Reed Richards went from the smartest man alive to the dumbest man alive by telling Wanda that Black Bolt can destroy you with one whisper from his mouth. Wanda just just says, "What mouth?" Somehow we get again a shot of Black Bolt's mouth sealed shut to everyone's surprise, blowing his brains out by his own sound waves. Even Reed Richards turns into the elastic spaghetti with his head blown off from Wanda. Captain Carter and Captain Marvel put up a good fight, but somehow Captain Carter gets her midsection sliced off by her own shield, and Captain Marvel getting crushed by a statue that Wanda brought down on her. This includes the musical score by Danny Elfman, who has been a frequent collaborator to Sam Raimi in many of his films, including the Spider-Man films. The last member of the Illuminati, being Professor Charles Xavier, played once again by Patrick Stewart, gets into a mind fight with the Scarlet Witch, and what really ends is a creepy neck break fatality that Wanda comes from behind and snaps Charles Xavier's neck. This sequence was turned from a comics fan dream come true to a nightmare fuel wipeout from the Scarlet Witch exorcism. Moving on. Number 8. Blackheart looks into the eyes of Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider. Okay, so obviously enough, this is basically the Ghost Rider film with Nicolas Cage. Now, I have seen this film a while back, like I believe it was like a long time ago, probably when I was a little kid, despite its PG-13 rating. Today, it probably would have been seen as more of an R rating. That's if Sony didn't held back so much on the horror elements, because this film is technically so bad it's good. Even I mean, true. Even the Ghost Rider film is silly, and is a so bad is good way. The film still managed to get audiences surprised with some of the horror elements. Ghost Rider, also known as Johnny Blaze, fires up to defeat Blackheart in San Venganza from unleashing hell on Earth with 1,000 souls inside Blackheart. This gives Johnny the opportunity to look into Blackheart by giving him the penance stare. Look into my eyes. Your soul is stained by the blood of the innocent. Feel the pain. I mean, he grabs Ghost Rider grabs Blackheart, takes him to a wall, and tells him to look into his eyes, and which is basically the penance stare. Now, I didn't know what that was, but looking it up, that was actually called the penance stare from Ghost Rider. That's basically Ghost Rider's ultimate weapon of some sorts. So basically, from that, Blackheart screams and sees a lot of hellish imagery of all the innocent souls suffering from the hands of Blackheart, with many of them screaming in agony. This sequence ends with Blackheart's eyes burnt out, and Ghost Rider tossing him aside like it was nothing. I guess that's confession the hard way for Blackheart then. Moving on, number 7. The opening scene, otherwise known as Bloodbath. Blade. Blade is one of the few superhero adaptations that marked the beginning for Marvel's success and setting the stage for future superhero film adaptations. Now Blade being played by Wesley Snipes, it is in what is actually particularly a nightclub, and it's basically he's in a nightclub during the opening scene, and he literally goes into a bath fight against other vampires, and Wesley Snipes, who plays the Day Walker himself, takes out a room full of bloody vampires one by one with his gadgets, guns, and of course his blade. Despite a couple of cheesy moments, it does showcase Blade's ability by how cool and badass he is. Like, he literally takes out a room full of bloody vampires right after like a blood shower. Like one of those like during like like one of those like during a fire alarm, one of like the water sprinklers up in the ceiling goes off. That's basically that's basically what they have in this nightclub during the opening of Blade, but instead of water, it's blood. And during that scene, Blade takes him out one by one with his gadgets, including some nice, clever camera shots too. I mean, despite a couple of cheesy moments, the opening of the film sets up the character and tone perfectly with a bloody massacre. Well, I just hope Kevin Feige and Marvel can get their act together to get their Blade reboot going with Mahershala Ali. That's if Marvel and Disney behaves well. Moving forward, number 6, Hulk's factory fight, The Incredible Hulk. Bruce Banner is on the run in Brazil as the U.S. Army, led by General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross and Emil Blonsky, to hunt down Bruce Banner. Bruce eventually hides in a green soda factory while being confronted by his co-workers. Bruce tells the co-workers that something bad is happening, but the co-workers don't listen, as Bruce turns into, you guess it, the Hulk, throwing one of the co-workers through the office windows. Emil and the other soldiers hear a loud roar of the Hulk as they try to tranquilize the beast, but it only made him angry. You don't like me when I'm angry. Well, technically the soldiers made the Hulk angry. The Hulk managed to take out a few soldiers with a giant, whatever that giant soda machinery that the factory has. I mean, I don't know what it was. I forgot what it was. So, but he uses it to take out a few soldiers behind thick fog and telling them to leave me alone. Emil was in complete shock on what he was facing. I mean, it's like he never gone up against a monster like the Hulk. I mean, Edward Norton's take on the Incredible Hulk may be short-lived, but if Thanos saw this, he would have pissed his pants in fear of how monstrous the Hulk is. Oh, and may I remind you, the other scene featuring Emil Blonsky turning into the Abomination is also another scary moment as well, to give the U.S. Army in that film to give me a real fight. And this is how monstrous the Hulk is. Number 5, Coin to the Head, X-Men First Class. In this prequel to the original X-Men films, Professor Charles Xavier, played this time around by James McAvoy, and Eric Lensher, played by Michael Fassbender, they both team up with the X-Men to stop the evil mutant Sebastian Shaw and the mutant members of the Hellfire Squad to prevent World War III during the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. The scene sees Eric painted in a corner by Sebastian, convincing that the mutants are the future, until Magneto uses his powers to take Sebastian's helmet and Charles freezing Sebastian Shaw. Now, this is Sebastian Shaw, the mutant, not the actor, not the actor that played Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars: Return of the Jedi. This is a Sebastian Shaw in the X-Men comics as a mutant. This is a mutant version, just so everybody knows, okay? So basically, Eric is now wearing the helmet, blocks Charles's mind, and agrees with Sebastian about the future. However, there was one screw up that Sebastian did. He killed Eric's mother. So what Eric did is that he takes the coin that Sebastian gave him as a kid during from World War II during the event Sebastian killed his mom, and moved the coin on a count of 3 through his head. Now, what makes this scene scary and dark is 1. Eric moves the coin on 1. 2. Charles begs and screams in agony to stop Eric from killing Sebastian. 3. Henry Jackman's musical score that really sets the tension to this moment. And 4. The tracking shots between Sebastian and Charles as the coin moves through the head. It even cuts back and forth between Sebastian Shaw and Charles Xavier as the coin is going inside Sebastian's head. That is some clever use of editing techniques that the filmmakers did. That was really clever. And then after that, the coin comes out of Sebastian's head full of blood. Now that's what I call bloody payback. Dang. Not only that, but this scene sets up Eric Lensher's path to villainy and setting up the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, or the Brotherhood of Mutants, I should say. Number 4. Ultron crashes the party. Avengers: Age of Ultron. Avengers: Age of Ultron may not be the best Avengers film, but it still delivers some fun and scary moments. One scene in particular is Ultron's first appearance, as he walks in on the Avengers party. Ultron, played by James Spader, brings in a creepy conversation in the form of a damaged Iron Legion armor, and you can definitely tell right away this is Ultron's first appearance, but also sets sets the bar of how creepy Ultron is, especially to knowing that he even takes in the forms of different armors, like Iron Man armors. Ultron tells the Avengers team that he had to eliminate Jarvis, saying you wanted to protect the world, but you don't know how to change, and warning the team about the Avengers' extinction. He sends the robot drones to attack the Avengers, ending with a creepy rendition of Pinocchio's "I got no strings on me." I have strings, but now I'm free. There are no strings on me. It's crazy to think that Avengers: Age of Ultron is a better live-action Disney remake of Pinocchio than the actual live-action Disney remake of Pinocchio. Just saying. Yeah, you can definitely tell. Even say what you will about the rest of the Avengers film, Avengers: Age of Ultron, but it really did set up Ultron as a pretty decent villain, and it's quite scary too, even if his dialogue is a bit silly. Okay, moving forward. Number 3, the death of Tony Stark's family. Captain America: Civil War. Before the final fight between Captain America, Bucky Barnes, and Iron Man, the trio were about to make amends with each other due to Baron Zemo framing Bucky Barnes. What comes is Zemo sitting in the dark room with a glass window in front, showing the trio the car crash sequence that Bucky was involved on December 16th, 1991, particularly picking up different types of super soldier serums. But what comes into that is the video revealed the people involved in the wreckage. It turns out it was Tony's parents, and this really shocked me, including Iron Man, who basically seeing his mother and father being killed in the process by Bucky being mind controlled by Hydra. Bucky beats on Tony's father and chokes Tony's mother. Although Bucky, as I mentioned, was controlled by Hydra as the Winter Soldier, Tony Stark turns against both Rogers and Barnes in hand-to-hand combat. I mean, no doubt, even in that film, it's pretty scary. It's so dark and scary to know that Tony lost not only his father, but his mother as well. And the fact that he also cares for his mother too really shows how angry Tony was at Bucky. Even during the fight, Iron Man was like, I don't care. He killed my mom. Right after Captain America told Iron Man that, look, this whole fight's not gonna change anything. Like I said, Iron Man didn't even care because Bucky killed his mom. I mean, hey, listen, I'd be mad too, but oh boy, that was really intense. That was really intense. But the way how it was set up, oh my god, that was intense and dark for Captain America Civil War. I mean, I'm pretty sure this was when Disney and Marvel had the guts to go the distance and go all out. Well, anyway, it's time to move on to number 2. Going to number 2 is Doc Ock's hospital fight from Spider-Man 2. The second installment of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, it's easily one of the best Spider-Man films with the inclusion of Dr. Otto Octavius, also known as Doc Ock, played by, you guessed it, Alfred Molina. Now, after a failed experiment, Otto is in a coma with his mechanical arms about to be operated by doctors. What really comes is the fact that there was basically a chip inside Dr. Otto Octavius during this failed experiment when controlling the arms, but somehow that chip was destroyed in the process of the failed experiment. So what happens during this hospital scene? Well, the arms take over. The arms started to wipe out every single doctor in the room. Like it was like a scene coming out of the Evil Dead films. Like the arms are just waving around, wiping out everybody in the film. Even the arms, one of the mechanical arms, almost gets caught off by one doctor who's using a chainsaw, kind of like how Bruce Campbell did in the Evil Dead when he was cutting off his arm after his arm was being possessed. But somehow all 4 mechanical arms took out the last doctor with a chainsaw. And to be honest, that is obviously one of the most scariest scenes to come out of Spider-Man 2, especially from director Sam Raimi, who has filmed the Evil Dead films. That just shows you that Sam Raimi knows how to blend in with the crowd, or basically knowing how to find a balance between action and scary elements. Okay, so now we are going up to number 1. So I'm pretty sure you're all gonna be wondering, what's my number 1? Well, believe it or not, I'm gonna tell you right now. And the number 1, and the number 1 top 10 and the number 1 darkest and scariest movie, and the number 1 darkest and scariest moments in Marvel movies is the snap from Avengers Infinity War. Now, out of all the scenes I mentioned on this list, the snap is by far the most darkest and scariest moment in any Marvel film. Because why? Because this was the moment in Avengers Infinity War where the Avengers may seem to take out Thanos. And the fact is, Thor almost wins. He almost wins. Like, he literally uses his Stormbreaker to literally stop Thanos from trying to snap his Infinity Gauntlet with all 6 Infinity Stones. But the thing was, and I quote this from Thanos, "You should have gone for the head." Like, he literally says that and snaps his fingers. Yeah, just like that. And then Thanos goes into what actually appears to be the Soul Realm, sees his adopted daughter Gamora in a young girl form, and she asks Thanos, "Did you do it?" Thanos says yes, and then Gamora asks, "What did it cost?" Thanos is like, "Everything." And then what comes later is Thanos goes into the portal from the Tesseract stone, or where I forgot what the stone was in the Tesseract, but I know it was the Tesseract. But I know it's the Tesseract. But but anyway, Thanos goes into the portal according to the Thanos goes into the portal from the from one of his Infinity Stones, basically the Tesseract. He's gone. Basically, he's gone. Basically on another planet. But what really comes is the fact that all the members of the Avengers, including Captain America, were wondering where did Thanos go. And the first thing that Captain America sees is Bucky Barnes disappearing into dust. Like literally, like that. He disappears into dust because Bucky was just wondering. He asks Steve. He just disappears. And then what comes later is literally other members of the Avengers even disappeared, including some of the Wakandan soldiers who were in battle in during the Wakanda battle sequence between Thanos' army. And it's just crazy. We even get to see the members of the Guardians of the Galaxy disappearing too, with Rocket, the only member left standing. Well, of course, Nebula as well. Nebula is still standing. Even Spider-Man disappears too, and that's probably one of the most saddest death scenes that I have actually seen from that. Well, one of the most saddest, if not the saddest death. But it's also scary to know that Thanos won. Even though Thanos lost the battle, he won the war. Thanos won the war. He snapped half of humanity. He achieved his goal. It is just shocking and surprising to know that the Avengers lost. Sure, you could argue that Baron Zemo won and so did Ultron. Baron and Ultron might have lost their battles, but those two won their wars too. And the same can be said with Thanos after snapping half of humanity in existence. Which is exactly why it's my number one pick for the top 10 darkest and scariest moments in Marvel movies. So, anyway, there you have it. Now, what do you all think? Did I miss out on any scary moments, darkest and scariest moments in Marvel films? Please let me know. Please let me know. And there we have it. We kick off Codo Cinema Horror Month. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Codo Cinema. I'm your host Mark Codo, aka Codo Man. Remember to watch movies and stay positive. And good night. Until next week.